Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Tatler Talks. I'm Rosie. I'm the fashion director at Tatler Asia. And joining me today is Darrel Hunter, aka Mode Hunter. He's a renowned street style photographer. His work has been seen in Teen Vogue and Cover Tour. And today we'll be talking about how unusual this fashion month has been, and also how he has been using his work to promote diversity in the industry. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section on our Facebook page, and then we'll address them at the very end during our Q&A session. But in the meantime, I would like to introduce Darrel. Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing in London? Thanks for joining us bright and early.
Yeah, yeah, it's an early start here, but I'm happy to be joining you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know that Fashion Month is basically over, so I hope you're enjoying a bit of rest. But this has been a very different one for many reasons. A lot of the shows have been digital, and also there were a lot of restrictions with the physical ones. But to start off, I will ask you how it's been different for you. But to start off, I
Okay.
want to know what does a typical fashion month entail for you work-wise?
Wow. So a very typical fashion month. I mean, of course, there's always anomalies in there, but normally it would start off in New York, and then head to London, then to Milan, and then Paris. And this is normally from the first week of September, through to the first week of October, and then in the winter, from February through to March. And this, I mean, it's basically capturing street photography outside the shows, documenting showgoers, also sometimes shooting some backstage and other things like that. So that's mainly what happens during Fashion Month. Now, there's a lot of traveling. There's many early mornings and late nights, tons of editing. So normally on a typical day, it would start about say 7:30 in the morning, depending on what time the first show is. And on a busy day, especially in the summer months when the sun goes down quite late, you can do like probably like 6 to 8 shows a day, which are spread out over the city. So you're running from different locations, hardly any time to eat, drink water. It's actually quite intense, but fun, yeah.
Sure.
and it and the thing is, it doesn't take a break from the weather. So you can imagine New York in September, you're outside in the heat, and then in the winter, you're in. Sometimes I remember there was a blizzard one season in New York, and you still have to go outside and stand outside the shows and capture images. So as glamorous as it looks, it's also a lot of hard work and many, like I say, early mornings and late nights. And then the thing is, after you've finished capturing images throughout the day, then you go home, you make selections, and then you have to edit the images to send to your various clients and everything. So that's very much what typically happens every day over the course of a month. But yeah, it's pretty intense, but also enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know, you guys are avoiding traffic. You are really
Yes.
like you're like perched on trash cans, and like it's a whole like circus outside, and come rain or shine, you're there.
Yeah.
How has this month been different in terms of maybe travel, or also like any restrictions that you faced?
So, I mean, this month has definitely been interesting, to say the least. First of all, there was no travel to New York. From what I understand, New York Fashion Week was scaled back, and mainly there were a few presentations and mostly digital shows. So I wasn't able to travel to New York this Fashion Week, which was tough because New York is like my second home, and I always enjoy being there and capturing all the images out there. So that was quite tough. London was also scaled back. There were very few physical shows. Everything was mainly digital. So that element was already missing from the beginning part of the season. So I kind of feel like when you're in New York and London, it's kind of a warm up, and you start to get ready, you start to see everyone again. It's like the first day of school coming back, and everything starts all over again. So that was a bit strange. And then we had Milan, which thankfully had quite a few physical shows. There was a mix of digital as well as physical. It wasn't as busy because unfortunately, you didn't have a lot of people from the American market and also the Asian market. So it was very localized. So you had mainly just people that were either in Italy or people who were able to travel from places in Europe. So that was already a big difference. Show numbers were reduced. So documenting people, it was a challenge, but also it was, again, for me, it's interesting and it's a way of doing things differently. So that's definitely what was different about this season, just mainly in Europe.
I'm a bit curious as well because usually you have to pick and choose which shows you go to because there's so many.
Yes,
And I'm curious, first of all, how you choose which ones to go to on a regular basis,
yes.
and also this time around there being fewer shows. How has that also affected your schedule?
So definitely during Fashion Week, you have your favorites. You know which shows you're going to go to, and there are some like shows that you just always have to go to. For me, it's very much knowing the style of the brand. Also, sometimes which attendees will be at certain shows, and then there's bigger shows. So especially when there's a time clash. So if a show starts within, say, 30 minutes of another one ending, and you're at one part of the city and you need to get to another one, it's very much about being strategic and knowing where you will go to get images that suit your aesthetic or images that you think will be the best. So that's normally on a typical fashion week how you would base it, well, how I would base it, knowing which images would work best for me. Also, its location as well. As you can imagine, in some of these cities, they have these amazing buildings, amazing backdrops. So, as well as capturing the style, you're able to have like a different scenery. You're able to create a scene, and it's for me that also adds to the imagery. This season, with the reduced shows, it was very much you have to go to everything because of course they're spread out now, so you have more time to get around. Sometimes you even have a chance to stop for lunch, which is a luxury. Yeah,
Ooh,
I know.
you
um,
fancy.
yeah, I know, exactly. But also, now to make sure that you capture everything, you have to go to shows that maybe you wouldn't have gone to before, or go to different locations because there's such a reduced schedule. You can't afford to miss anything. So this season, while it's been a slower pace and you've been able to probably take your time and move around, you've also had to be mindful of going everywhere to make sure that you're able to capture all the images that you need.
Um, when even now or before, but what catches your eye and makes you want to photograph someone?
Um, for me, I'm very much into details. So I like layering. I like unusual things. For me, it's very much about personal style as well, because a lot of people, like, you can wear certain brands, you can put all the things together, but I feel that people that actually like fuse their personality with their clothes and have their own personal style are much more interesting to me. It's about putting a look together and doing something unusual, but not because you've seen someone else do it, but because that fits with you and that's your aesthetic and that's something that you felt like doing today. For me, I really like that. And it's very much, of course, I love shoes as well, like amazing shoes, like that just sets off the outfit. So yeah, details and just something that brings out the person's personality, and you can see the comfort and the confidence in the way that they're dressed. So yeah, that's very much it.
Well, for this time around, a lot of people are, in masks. Some of them are actually pretty quirky masks, or they match it to their outfits. What are some interesting new things that you saw on the streets this time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely it's the mask thing. So obviously due to the state of the health in the world and everything, people are wearing masks. But instead of allowing that to take away, I like the fact that people have said, okay, I'm now going to match it to outfits. I'm going to do different things. A lot of people have been paying more attention to eye makeup or accessories because that will then accentuate it. Because if you have a mask, it can detract from the look, but then you see someone with nice statement jewelry or interesting eye makeup. I feel like people have been placing a lot more emphasis on accessories. Um, I just feel like the looks now are probably more authentic, and people, rather than just wearing something that is head to toe branded, they're actually putting in their own touch, which I like. So it's been very interesting. Also, I feel like because of the lack of travel, a lot of people being just localized, you're getting to see a lot more people who may not have been visible before due to the crowds. You're seeing people who are based in that country that have their own personal style. So I feel like that has changed and that has become more visible due to this season.
Have there been any incidents as well, though, with like limitations in public that you guys can't crowd around as you used to? Have you been like chased away by police or anything like that?
Um, no, I mean, just mainly the thing of enforcing masks. Also, I think amongst ourselves, we've also been quite mindful of the situation. As much as it's enjoyable to be able to be documenting this, we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. So we've been mindful, just making sure that we're staying safe. I mean, it's frustrating because this is one of the times where you get to see all your colleagues, like you get to bond. I mean, you can hug people, spend time and everything, but now it's kind of there's an air of caution, and you also have to be respectful even when you're photographing people, respectful of their personal space. Whereas before, you may be a bit closer, you may be in between the crowd. It's more about still capturing images but being respectful and obeying the rules, but yeah, still making sure that you get the images that you need.
I want to talk about your work and how you make a conscientious effort to photograph a more diverse set of people,
Yes.
and I want to know, why that's so important to you.
So for me, I think that it's very much second nature. It's always the way that I've captured imagery. For me, I feel that if you have a narrow view, you're not representing the true fashion industry, or you're not representing the street or all the people that are encapsulated within this. A lot of times people are seeing images and they have one view of what is being shown. For me, I think that if you don't see yourself represented within the pages or online or in a photographer's work, you kind of feel excluded, and the fashion industry can seem quite elitist or quite closed. For me, I think that it's my duty and something that I enjoy doing, representing everyone, finding people that you may not have seen on other people's stories or other people's galleries. It's about showing that everyone is included, every style, everyone is represented, and just allowing people to be able to see that fashion is inclusive, that photography is inclusive, and the narrative that is being pushed from time to time isn't accurate. So for me, it's very important to continue doing that.
I'm curious how you balance that as well with the demands from your clients as well, because I'm sure that they have very specific instructions and maybe certain people that they want you to photograph. Has that ever been an issue?
Um, Thankfully for me, it hasn't been an issue. Some in the past, I have had specific people that they want or specific looks, but I've thankfully I've had amazing editors. I've actually had people that push to make sure that there is a more diverse gallery. I I'm actually encouraged to make sure that I shoot even people that are on the street that may not necessarily even be part of the fashion week. They're like, if you see somebody that is stylish or someone that you think represents your work, you'll feel free to include them. So while there may be a push sometimes, I mean, of course, people want to see their favorite actor or influencer or editor. So people will like see that, but also within my gallery, I'll make sure that I include everyone. And yeah, I'm definitely grateful that I've been encouraged to push that from many years ago. Ever since I've been shooting, I've never had somebody say, okay, no, you can't include this person. It's actually um, I've been able to represent widely in my work. And for me, I feel like it would be quite difficult for me to do my job correctly if there were restrictions put on me, or if I was told that I wasn't able to shoot a certain type of person. So yeah, it's something that wouldn't really work for me.
I feel like conversation about diversity has really reached fever pitch during this Black Lives Matter movement, and I
Yes.
wonder how that has that changed anything for you at all, like in terms of what you've been asked to do more of, or conversations that you've even had with your fellow photographers.
Yes. I mean, as we've seen over the past few months, there has been I'd say more of an awakening globally. Like there's things that we've always known or things that we've always dealt with, but there seems to have been a focus on this, and also in the fashion industry. Many brands, many publications have been reaching out and trying now to make an effort for them to be more inclusive. My main concern is that this is not just a trend for the moment, that this is something that will be the start of a shift. I mean, it should have been a long time ago. I mean, it's sad that it's taken incidents like this to be able to have people to awaken or open up their eyes, but hopefully this will start something and this will actually cause a change, and people will be having the conversations. For me, I have been quite grateful. My photographers, so we have quite a close group. You have people that you're closer with. Like during this time, many have reached out. People have been, even before, people have been always supportive of me, have always tried to push things and help the conversation. And I've had messages from editors, stylists, photographers, just really supportive without it being performative, people who are genuine and people who are looking out for your best interest. So for me, I'm grateful for what's happening, but I also hope that this is not a trend and it's not just, okay, now we need to find a Black photographer or Black this just to fill our quota. It's definitely something that will be infused throughout all areas of the fashion industry.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And my last question, and it's a big one.
Okay.
With everything kind of going more digital, brands are choosing more digital formats. I mean, I'm hoping that, Fashion Week does come back in its full glory, but without a doubt, it's still going to be kind of, we're going more digital. And I want to know how that affects street style going forward.
I mean, from the practical point of view, with a more digital era, of course, there will be less physical attendees at shows. I do think that it's interesting in the way brands are now innovating and finding new ways to move. Some are having a hybrid of digital, some physical, but I feel that even though Fashion Week may not continue exactly in the format that it was before, um, I still feel that physical shows will always be a part of fashion. I mean, there's something different about um, seeing the fabric, like seeing the way it's moved, like the production. Like there's something enchanting about a fashion show and all the work that goes into it, the energy. So having people there in a physical way, we've seen brands that were able to do it this season safely. They were able to innovate and still have a physical show with guests, even though it was limited. So for me, I feel like that's something that will always be there in some capacity. Um, Street photography is something that drives inspiration, designers, people on the street. When you see something, so I think it's always something that's necessary. It's always good to see someone's personality through their clothing, and it's inspirational. So whether it's people that are just on the street or people outside shows, I feel like there will always be a need for street photography. It's a way of documenting. And when we look back at different eras and we can see how people dressed, we can understand a certain time. We're like, oh, this was the 70s, this was the 60s. And that's because people documented things. So for me, it's just a way of reporting and making sure that people can see what's happening. So hopefully there'll always be a need for that.
For sure. I certainly don't want to give up on street style and looking at your street style feed anytime soon. But so we're going to open it up to some of the questions that were submitted to us, and I'm going to have a look here. What was your favorite outfit or trend that you captured during this season?
Wow. Okay, so for me, I don't necessarily go for trends. When shooting, I do notice patterns or people wearing things that are similar. For me, I've been seeing a lot of neutral tones, a lot of autumn colors, like a lot of greens, browns, beiges. So for me, a lot of white as well that I've been seeing. So for me, I like that. It fit, especially with the imagery of the buildings and the fall colors. It actually looked really good. So for me, it was mainly about the colors. Um, I've been seeing a lot of puffed sleeves as well on dresses and shirts, and a lot of like leather skirts and leather dresses and leather trousers. So for me, I like the way it photographed. It was looking quite rich and quite well. So yeah, that I would say those were some of my favorites this season.
Can the fashion industry afford another season like this? Meaning, you know, having everyone, a lot of people stay home and just kind of the scale being so much smaller. Like, do you think so?
Um, I think it's very difficult, especially economically, at this moment for the fashion industry. I mean, it's all over a lot of industries, but the thing is, we have to realize with the fashion industry, not only, especially during Fashion Week, not only is it the shows, there are so many things that go into it. So if you can imagine hotels, flights, there's drivers who get paid more during that time. There's production staff, makeup artists, like there's a whole army behind just this season. So I feel like with that missing out, it can be quite detrimental to a wide range of jobs. Hopefully, I'm not quite sure in what capacity it will return the next season. Hopefully, there will be more shows. There will be like a return to how things were, not in the exact way, but I think definitely it will survive. Just in what way, there'll just be definitely cutbacks and things will have to be done differently.
Mm-hmm. Has being featured in street style become more valuable during the pandemic? I'm assuming this question is directed kind of more at influencers, like whether the ones who were photographed, maybe that's kind of proven more valuable, especially while everyone is like on lockdown. I think people are like kind of thirsting for inspiration.
I feel, yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting because even from afar, you've seen that a lot of brands have had initiatives where they'll still have people looking at their shows. They'll have like, say, a viewing party, and then they'll be dressed up and they'll take pictures. So I feel that it's not so much about using this time to increase your visibility. It's just that, yes, there are certain people that were able to travel, and yes, they're being featured. But then there are still others who are still relevant. So I don't really feel that being featured now is great for your profile or detracts from it. I feel like it's still very even at the moment.
I'm definitely missing, you know, dressing up. It just in
Yeah,
general.
I could, yeah, exactly.
I
It
look at
was
my favorite
strange.
photos, I just can't do it.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thank
I
you.
thank you for letting me live vicariously and retroactively through you during this brief chat. And I hope I get to see you in person soon.
Yeah, it'll be good to see you again soon and yeah, capture some of your fabulous style as well. But yeah, thank you so much for this chat and for your
Thank you,
time. It's been
Darrel.
good. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.